Hi everyone and welcome to a new episode of Miriam Talks About Things. Now in this episode I'm just going to talk a little bit about uni and how I am now on my winter break and talk a little bit about what I've read since we last talked, what I'm currently reading, some reading plans for the rest of the year, and some general plans for the rest of the year, and how I will wrap up my book year at the end or at the beginning of the new one. So yes, I'm currently on winter break. I already don't know which day it is, so I'm totally in vacation mood already. It was a great final few days of uni. I had a lot of fun and it was a very nice way of ending things, and I do hope that next semester will be just as fun, and I definitely think that it will be just as exciting as this one. So yes, I do have a lot of time for reading now, which is great. I also want to do some museum going during the winter break, which will hopefully happen. Sometimes you think that you have 2 months at your disposal, but time flies pretty quickly, so it's going to be, well, we will see. I also have my birthday during winter break, so I'm going to do something there a little bit. I'm not massive on celebrating my birthday, but that's also during winter break. So yeah. But on to what I've read since we last talked, which isn't actually that much. But again, it was the final week of university, so that's totally fine. But I did manage to finish the poetry collection I was in the middle of when we last talked, and that is Dear Future Boyfriend by Cristin Aptowicz. And I ended up really enjoying it. I gave it 4 stars. There were definitely stronger and weaker ones, which is usually the case with poetry collections. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. And I will definitely want to follow this poet along in the future. I do have, I think, 2 of her other collections, 2 or 3, on my TBR as well. So I will be definitely reading her in the future. And I do highly recommend her work, especially if you are into modern poetry, more in the slam poetry style. I would highly recommend her if you are into that. I think especially the poems Mother and Father were some of my favorite poems of all time, and I think they are very, very strong. So that was a fun experience. Then I read a book that has been on my TBR for way too long, which is, it was quite embarrassing for how long it's been on there, sitting on my shelves unread. But I finally decided to pick it up, and it was more or less on a whim. And that is Unsichtbar by Ivana Jeissing. Unfortunately, for some weird reason, this book has not yet been translated into English. It would roughly translate into, not really roughly because it's actually the word-to-word translation, but it would translate into invisible. And it's basically about that. It's about Jane, who her whole life lived a life that made her feel invisible. Growing up with her parents, they are both in the medical field, and through that she often felt invisible. She got married, and her marriage does make her feel invisible. And one day she walks into the cinema and meets this old, very charming man, and they sort of strike a friendship, and through that she learns to become visible again. And it was just a very, very charming novel. I think it really has that incredible balance between something so profound and deep, yet also being so funny at times. It sort of reminded me of one of those French films for some reason, even though it's a German book. But there was such charm in how the story was told and how quirky it felt at times, but yet how deeply it moved me personally. And I was truly not expecting to connect to the story as much as I did. And of course, you, especially towards the end, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. But again, it is on that line of those French films, and I just really, really loved the atmosphere, and again, how it was told, and Jane as a character, and how she grew, and how much the people around her affect that on various degrees in various ways. And seeing a woman who felt invisible for most of her life and having so much dare to be visible on her own just really resonated with me and reminded me of a process I had to go through myself, and I think a lot of us go through. So it's just been an incredible story. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I do think that I will definitely return to that book in the future. And if you consider reading in German, or if you're able to read in German, definitely pick it up if you find it somewhere. I think it's an older one, but if you manage to snatch it up somewhere, definitely pick it up. I really, really enjoyed it. I also mentioned in my last episode that I've been weirdly craving some poetry, and that is totally still the case, which is funny because this will probably push me onto 100 books, if not above, which is just incredible and very surreal to think. And you might say that I'm just going to pick up poetry collections to push myself onto 100 books, which honestly, there's nothing wrong about that if you want that. But I honestly just really crave it. And if it will help me reach 100 books, I will be fine. So I actually picked up 3 collections that I want to read. The first one I'm in the middle of, and that is Bone by Yrsa Daley-Ward. And this is a sort of almost, how do I say it, reflection-y type collection of her coming of age, her realizing her sexuality, her bonds to her family, and how her family and her family structure shaped who she is as a person. It's almost like, to me, reading it feels like writing to survive it, sort of like it has that urgency in its writing, and I'm really enjoying it at the moment. I think it has a great mix of longer form and shorter form poetry, which I really appreciate, and I'm really enjoying it so far. Then I also picked up a poetry collection called I Love My Love by Reyna Biddy, I think is how you say it. And this is probably what you would call your typical, even though I don't like that word, modern insta poetry kind of poetry. But I'm really in the mood for that, and I realized and I noticed that I'm much more open with that style of poetry since I truly discovered the importance and the resonance it has with especially young women and with myself. I noticed how it started to resonate more and more with me. And this is one of those collections. They are definitely still more hit and miss for me. Some really work, some don't really. But I do have high hopes for this one, flipping through it. So I'm really excited to pick it up next. Then we have When the Ghosts Come Ashore by Jacqui Germain. I hope I said that remotely right. I should have looked it up actually. But this is a poetry collection about the Black immigrant experience, or like just the Black experience in America in general. And it's a very short, but as it seems very impactful collection. It's published by Button Poetry, which is usually publisher I really appreciate the works of. And I definitely am interested in this particular collection because it's sort of looking at that whole aspect of that crossover from body and the presence in the world, and body and places, and that presence that sort of lives between the margins, literally and also in writing. And I'm really, really interested in how it is working with the tone and the words in expressing those ideas and thoughts. And yes, I definitely look forward to it. And it has a gorgeous cover if you look it up. And I'm highly, highly anticipating it. Hope it will turn out fine. So yeah, those are my plans. I will also have some other books lined up. I am in a bit of a conflict because I thought that the next time we will talk to each other is going to be a very special episode, because it's going to be the end of the year type of thing, where I talk about my favorite books of the year. There will also be a blog post up alongside that episode where I talk about all the books I've read, or list all the books I've read during this year. So this will actually be the next time we talk to each other. And that's probably going to be on the 31st of December or the 1st of December, depending on how my reading goes. But you can expect a new episode around that time. But that will mean that the next episode will probably have a lot of catching up to do with what I've read recently. And I do hope that you are interested in that. Because I don't want to publish one the Sunday before I'm going to publish my end of the year wrap up, because it will just go under completely. So yeah, definitely let me know if you're still interested in seeing that a little bit later. First see my favorites of the year, and then just sort of a recent read after that one. It will probably have a bit more books than usual, but let me know if that's something you are interested in. So yeah, that's it. My plans for the rest of the year are pretty casual, except for the 27th and the 28th, which we sort of put aside to do some shelf reorganization. We are going to reorganize our shelves by genres and probably unhaul some books. So that is going to be interesting because we have a lot of shelves. And well, we'll see. Wish us luck. I hope it's going to turn out well. It's going to be a lot of work, but we'll be all right. And I will report in the next episode after the end of the year wrap up one, how it went and how the shells are doing now. So thanks for listening, and I will see you or talk to you again for my end of the year one with my favorite books of 2019, which is exciting. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you then. Bye.